Okay, we'll give it a few minutes like how we usually do. And can it hear us is the question. I'm a little concerned about this down there.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I haven't used it in a while. I haven't done anything. We'll wait till someone pops in.
There we go. Got one person.
Yeah.
Watch it just be like Brianna.
Yeah.
I love how we joke about that now every time.
I know. We're just like.
Wait, is she here?
No. She went home.
Oh, okay.
She has a orthodontist or a dental appointment tomorrow. So, all right, we got one viewer. So we're gonna be talking about the Snyder cut, and then we're also gonna be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we're gonna go through, do a discussion on that.
A lot of heroes, guys.
I know, back to back, I mean,
and I'm about it too, because I mean, like, I did enjoy Snyder cut, you know.
There was 100% mutual respect there by them not making it the same release day.
Totally.
Like they could have totally like made it the same.
If you're a superhero fan, then you should have loved last week.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line. Doesn't matter if you're more DC or Marvel.
So he's gonna be talking mostly about the Falcon Winter Soldier show because I haven't seen it at all. I've been really busy. I actually just bought a house this past week, so like.
You got married last week.
Yeah, and I got married the week before that, so like I've been a little busy. So we're back now.
Together.
Together again. So.
Although what's great though is I actually feel like we've hung out more in the past 2 weeks than we have since you've lived here.
I know.
Because now our wives have officially become friends, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're currently blowing us out of the water with going to the gym consistently. So I texted him earlier and said that we need to start going more because I just renewed my gym membership. I can bring him for free.
Exactly. So,
products. We should start with products because there are a lot of new products.
Yeah.
I mean, since we've done this last, I'd like to say we have a couple of hot toy announcements. So, we have, oh my God, and people, I have pre-ordered most of them, which is great.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to. So first of all, I don't know even like last time I was on, Bo-Katan. They announced Bo-Katan not too long ago. I feel like we already did that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did the double pack of Boba Fett, like more the Wander look from Mando. That looks dope. But then, guys, of course, and we knew it was a matter of time that we were gonna get the Snyder cut hot toy releases. So what did we get? We got the black suited Superman, which looks completely badass.
There it is. I know it doesn't come out well with the lighting, but there he is in the black suit.
And we have Nightmare Batman, which looks really cool.
Oh, yeah.
That might be a pickup for me. It's hard for me to say. I can't get overly excited about hot toys that are going to release a year or two from now just because it's so long away. But like,
yeah, it's like December 2022, and
exactly.
It's like you're going to forget about the movie by the time that comes.
By that time, we'll officially know. We'll officially know if the Snyderverse is back or not. Hopefully, I don't know. DC's been kind of a cluster lately, so
management.
They need to have some changes there. I'm sorry, but what else for Star Wars news? So they've been showing a lot of
dormant.
They've been showing a lot of pictures though of their new comic look figures of the Black Series. They have like Jax, Luke Skywalker. A couple others. I honestly, like, since I pretty much hopped out of Black Series permanently, I haven't really followed them much. I know that the Bo-Katan wave has officially started hitting Targets and Walmarts, so people have been going crazy over those. It's kind of nice, though, now that I'm, like, out of it. I'm not chasing things down. I'm just kind of chilling and enjoying this. I feel like I actually have enjoyed the fandom more.
You're not obligated to collect a bunch of those.
It's not so much obligated because I did enjoy it. But it's just like, I don't know. I actually can use that time I spend hunting, watching more TV and stuff like that, doing other things. But
speaking of which, I've been binge watching like all of the DC like stuff on HBO. Like,
I've been tempted too.
I was like, I bought it for a month so I could watch the Snyder cut. I'm like, I'm gonna watch it all. Like,
and then you'll be good for a little while.
I'll be good. So.
Well, you know. So we have those releases, and then, guys, we also are finally starting to get new looks at Marvel Legends. So WandaVision, they've officially released the new look Wanda from the finale, which was great.
I like her
We didn't
outfit.
address
It's like-
last time we were on. That was the WandaVision finale.
I think so.
We were supposed to do our live stream last week, guys, and I'm so sorry for any of you that actually turned on our clock. We didn't end up recording because we didn't get started with the Snyder cut till like 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so like we were gonna do a late night stream, and that did not happen.
So we actually have a lot to cover today. So guys, WandaVision. So first off, that finale was amazing. Okay, and I hope you've seen it by now because now they have official images of both the new look Wanda for the Marvel Legends, and they also have the new look Vision.
And so I like all the memes that are like Mephisto. Have you seen those memes? It'll be like they'll go back through like Marvel stuff and they'll be like Mephisto ?
Yeah. Now there was one I saw too of Don Cheadle, the War Machine.
Oh yeah, and it was like
it
was like the wrinkle on his forehead.
Yeah,
and they're like it has the same wrinkle or whatever.
Ridiculous. You know me, I was up in the air. I wasn't buying the Mephisto hype. I still had said, yeah, I think it'll happen, but I should have listened more to my gut.
They can always go back and retcon it too. Like they could go back and then show a flashback, and then suddenly he was in the background the entire time. So like, you know, I liken it to something like Batman versus Superman, right? Which it seems like it was Zack Snyder's original plan to have like that laid out. But if you notice, when you watch Man of Steel, there's destruction of Metropolis. Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck, he's not there. And then like in the start of Batman vs Superman, they go back and say, oh, he was there. So like,
yep,
they could do the same thing here and like go back to like the events during WandaVision and show like his character in the background. The only thing that I'm not really
that's what they did with Ahsoka too, by the way.
Yeah. So the only thing I'm not really convinced on is Evan Peters' character. People think he was just in there for a joke. I don't think he was in there for just a joke. I think that there's like something else.
They did it on purpose for a reason. I think that they're hiding something else. I still think there's a greater scheme to that. I agree.
Well, I don't think Ralph is his real name. I don't. I think that he was still like being controlled, and then we don't see Ralph after the city returns to normal. Like we don't see him again. So
right.
So and then the other thing that I kind of predicted, which it's been so long ago, I might have said it. I was like, oh yeah, there's no way they're gonna kill the Vision off again. He's gonna come back in some form, and he's gonna stay. And we see some wonkiness going around with White Vision, unlocking his memories. I halfway called it in that he was going to come back in some way, shape, or form, and he's probably going to return to normal-ish Vision at some point, I would think.
Yeah, you did call that. I was a big believer, too, if you guys remember from the last episode, that White Vision was essentially going to be Ultron reborn, and he was going to figure out a way to rebuild his body. I was actually really believing that, and it would have made a lot of sense. I think for a lot of fans, including myself, it would have been actually awesome because we didn't see Ultron at his best in like the comics and all that in the Age of Ultron movie. So,
and on Google, everyone like had James Spader on there, like similar to like how Hugh Jackman was this in Endgame. They had James Spader, and it was like, no, James Spader was not in there.
Yeah,
I don't even think there was maybe it was a flashback to Ultron that was technically his voice. I don't even remember.
Could have been. It could have been. Yeah, I don't know how all that works, but I mean, nonetheless, besides the fact that like we probably could have gotten some more fan pleasement from a theory perspective, I think overall it was an amazing finale. But anyways, my whole point in saying this was, number one, to do just a quick overview of my thoughts, and then also just to show like they're finally releasing like some of the products at the Disney store. Marvel Legends is coming out. And then, back on the Hot Toys binge, they did announce a new Vision and the new look Wanda. And I pre-ordered.
And Bucky.
Well, that one I was going to get to. So we do have a new Bucky as well. Both the Wanda and the Bucky I pre-ordered. But I'm so pumped for those. The Wanda one I'm really excited for. Like that, I actually don't really pre-order many Hot Toys. I'm gonna start because you just have like a small tiny deposit that's like less than a Marvel Legend, and then they come out in a year. Sideshow. Yeah,
directly.
Yeah, Sideshow's good. I sometimes like if it's one that I really want, I'll get it directly from China. So like I'll buy it from Toys Wonderland. Mm-hmm. But overall, I usually will try to get from Sideshow because you won't pay like extra.
Yeah.
But I'm really pumped for those. I had to pre-order them. Yeah, to your point, the Bucky came out like 2 days ago, I think is when they announced them.
Yeah.
But I love that.
I wasn't expecting it like at all. I was like expecting something else. We still haven't gotten Luke Skywalker from The Mandalorian. They teased him, and I'm like, how did you have these other characters like waiting, already lingering, and then you don't show us Luke Skywalker?
They're saving that one for 2023 because they are
coming out in 2025.
Yeah, right, exactly. So they're gonna save it for like a 2022 announcement, and then it'll be pre-orderable for like a 2023 in-hand release, maybe 2024. So we'll wait and see. But I think it's just because they have so much in the pipeline to come out next year that if they add Luke to it, it's just gonna be like such a
cluster. Yeah,
and it's market timing, right? Because eventually they're gonna run out of things to make and redos to do. So it's gonna help bring back the Mando train when season 3 rolls around.
So Sebastian Stan actually made a comment that, again, actors and actresses are told to lie and not say things, but he said that he has not, something to the extent of he has not been approached about playing Luke Skywalker. He said he has not. He got asked it, and he said that he hasn't gotten the blessing from Mark Hamill or anything like that. He said if he was to do it, he'd be honored to share the role, but he would want to speak with Mark Hamill first, and that hasn't happened, or something like this, something to that extent. So
he's such a great actor too.
So regardless of whether you use him or another actor or CGI or whatever it is, point is a lot of people are like, oh, confirmed, but like what he's saying is true, it's not necessarily confirmed yet. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, that would be we saw what
happened with WandaVision, right? Everyone kept like hyping it up, expecting something, and it wasn't at all. Like, a lot of hopes, I think you included at a time, believed that it was a multiverse, and that was
I was sold on the multiverse,
and I said I don't think they're going to do that. They're going to wait for Doctor Strange or Spider-Man. I was skeptical. I said I don't think they're going to do that in a TV show, and unfortunately I was right, or at least it seems that way. We might find out as identity someone else, but I rather have low expectations and be pleasantly surprised than have high expectations and then be like, darn it. So
yeah, I mean, even though I was hoping to see the multiverse and like Ultron Reborn, all that, it didn't. Some fans were like distraught afterward. I wasn't distraught at all. I still loved the finale. I thought it was so well done. Regardless, the writing, the screenplay, the acting, it was so good, and it hit the heart of a lot of fans after about the 4th episode. You really, really got into it. I mean, and just like you could feel. Elizabeth Olsen should win an award for that show. I think she did an amazing job, and she did a great job with the emotion that went into recreating Vision and making this perfect world, this reality.
Especially, have you ever seen like a video of like behind the scenes, and they're like trying to do that stuff without CGI, and you just watch the raw clip, no audio, no nothing. It's really awkward. And
it's very awkward. You have to be very comfortable in your own skin. To do that for sure. Like it's definitely awkward looking, but you have that vision when you're doing it. Yeah, right. No pun intended. But when you have that sort of vision in your head that that when you're doing this scene with the best of your ability, even though it's sort of awkward because there's nothing else around you, it's going to be built into something masterful. And it was really amazing. The graphics alone should win an award. Catherine Hahn was great as Agatha. She was fantastic. I loved her. Loved Paul Bettany. I mean, everything about it except the theories that I had hoped we got were amazing. So for me, I was somewhat disappointed, but I definitely was far from like, oh crap, that sucks.
I had one criticism I had a few criticisms, but I'm critical of lots of things. Number one, I thought the ending was okay. I didn't think it was anything like, oh my God, go see this right now. I thought they did a good job, but for me, again, I tend to be critical of a lot of sci-fi stuff.
He's a DC fan too.
Well, I'm critical of a lot of sci-fi stuff in general. The ending felt very Marvel. It felt very Marvel, and like I was hoping, because the entire course of the show was very not Marvel. So I said, okay, they're re-scripting their Marvel formula. They're going to take this in a different direction. And then like the ending was kind of sort of Marvel-esque, but holistically, I thought it was great. Brianna normally doesn't get into that kind of stuff. She liked it. So good.
Same with Heather. Yeah, I had to convince her to watch it, and she ended up loving it.
Yeah. I think it's because it wasn't like action 24/7 throughout the entire thing. Now, there's one potential criticism that I have, which is the thing that bothers me the most, and isn't necessarily just limited to WandaVision. I'm worried about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm worried about like any other, if DC goes the route of putting out shows on HBO that tie into the movies. I'm worried about that because supposedly, again, take it with a grain of salt, some people are saying it's fake, some people are saying it's real, that, what's his name, Kevin Feige said, oh, we don't want anything. He meant to phrase it as, you don't have to see the shows to understand the movies. But he ended up saying something supposedly to the extent of, we don't want anything super meaningful or core to the plot of the movies to happen in the shows. So some people interpret that to mean like it's just filler and all these shows are not going to live up to the hype. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that was said. I saw that being said. I mean, we saw how, for real, the idea that the Snyder cut wasn't a thing, was a few years ago, and surprise, it existed and it was like completely different. So like, with a grain of salt, but point is that's my concern, is if a lot of these major film franchises, Star Wars included, go off and do stuff in the shows and then want to tie them into the movies, that the show's not going to be meaningful. That's just my concern.
I think I'm pretty much on the opposite side with this one. I think you can't make a show crafted like WandaVision and have it just be filler. I think there's too much effort and too many Easter eggs and foreshadowing that was thrown in there for it to not have any meaning. The ending alone with Agatha, like, when she says, you might need me, she goes, I don't know where to find you. That's already a foreshadow to.
And I'm hoping that's true. I'm just saying I'm going to be disappointed if it turns out in another expectations of it tying in, and then Agatha is reduced to a name drop, like later on.
Could be. I think ultimately, I think it's going to all connect, guys. I think this was all drawn out. We know MCU is big on the connections. I think just like they've done the past 10 years, they're going to do it with these shows and the movies. So
hopefully.
But guys, we're not even done with products yet. So, but we got past WandaVision,
yeah,
right?
Done.
So we're good. We're done with WandaVision. We're ready to talk more Snyder Cut and Falcon Winter Soldier.
There is one thing that kind of sort of ties in with WandaVision.
Go ahead.
All right. So I sent him photos, and there's been rumors of these photos, and they kept getting taken down. But I got to see one firsthand, and I saw it again today. That it ties in vaguely to WandaVision potentially, and I'm talking about the new Spider-Man movie, because the stunt doubles for Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland were actually photographed together, and I actually just saw the picture again today. Like, I physically saw it. It wasn't just like, a message that popped up that said, oh, this happened. I physically saw it, and so when Tom Holland's saying like, oh, I'm the only Spider-Man in it or something like that, it's probably bull. But he does leak a lot of stuff, and I wanted to bring this up, seeing behind the scenes of WandaVision and other stuff, is there is a lot of CGI nowadays. I don't know if you knew this, but the one end scene, like the nightmare scene that had like the Joker and stuff like that, in the Snyder Cut, that was filmed in Zach's backyard. So point is with CGI, and all the people were there at the same time. So the point is, with the CGI, you can do a lot of overlaying and stuff. So Tom saying that, oh, if they were in the movie, they might have hidden it from me. Like, very well, like.
We know too with Infinity War how different the actual movie was than the scenes and the footage they put for the first trailer. Do you remember that a couple years ago? Same with Endgame. It was to throw off the scent. And that's what Marvel does. They've learned like how to throw people off. Sometimes they're for real, sometimes they're not. But that's part of the fun, is it keeps you guessing.
In Civil War, I remember the trailer for it. I don't remember who it was, or if it was multiple people, but when they showed both sides lined up at the airport, there were people missing from the lineup that were in the actual movie. I don't remember who it was or how many, but there were people that were like on the opposite sides or whatever. Like, it was different. So, I mean, you can go back. I saw the 2017 first trailer for Justice League, and it was kind of funny because it had scenes in the Snyder cut, but then they didn't make it into the one we got in 2017.
Right.
So, trailers.
which now isn't the OG. But that's a good segue because now we're gonna jump into everything DC related right now. So first off, we announced the Hot Toys. We just shared with you the Hot Toys that were announced, I should say, last week. I think it was on the day that Snyder Cut released. But then we got some awesome first picks of McFarlane with their DC Multiverse line. Guys, they are coming out with a full line of the Snyder Cut figures, and I will say this: I might have to get those. They all look fantastic. Steppenwolf looks the best. Darkseid looks boss. I have to have that Black Superman. All the others maybe I'll pass on, but those three are almost a must for me.
Yeah.
Like literally, and just knowing myself, like I don't think I own a piece of DC merchandise, to be honest with you. So even if I get the whole thing, maybe I might get a Superman hot toy. I'm still up in the air on this. I've been thinking about this for 2 weeks now. But I listen, I didn't absolutely love the Snyder Cut. I really liked it, most of it. The first 2 to 5 parts of the movie were just for me. But then when the last 2 parts I thought were just fantastic. And
it was very comic booky vibe.
It was very like fun comic booky.
But it was also dark.
It was. Well, and it reminded me a lot of what I come to love about Marvel. And I think that's when I really started to draw towards DC for the first time since the Dark Knight series released. I was a huge Dark Knight fan, and still am. But I really, like, after that, DC just completely lost me. Man of Steel was just for me. I like it better seeing it the next few times, but still wasn't enough to bring me back. The Snyder Cut has been one of the few things that have really gotten my attention over the past 5 to 10 years. I know, and so that's why I don't want to get too engrossed in that. Like, and if I'm gonna grab a couple of the figures or hot toys, like I have to know like they're either all in or all out in the Snyderverse. Because if they're all in, I will hands down start watching DC movies again, because I did like Snyder Cut that much to where I'm more interested now. But if they don't, I'm gonna just push it to the side again. But like, I mean, it's just you go ahead. You're the DC guy, so he's dying to share his thoughts here.
Okay, so I am very critical of superhero movies in general, and the reason I tend to gravitate towards DC, I'm going to call a boomer here, is I like that they're generally slower. I like the very slow and personal interaction dialogue, as opposed to Marvel, which is pure. It's fun. It's pure fun. Pure comic booky. And I'm more of the type that I like the dialogue.
It draws the emotion side. I will say that about DC. They focus more on the build-up and the emotional side of it.
Yeah. So on that note, was 4 hours long? Yes. And we had to get him a McFlurry, and we had a break in there that probably made it longer than it needed to be. But I watched it twice, and I actually liked it even better on second viewing. I think, was the beginning slow? Yes. But I think it was also critical because you had to think that this was intended to release in 2017. In 2017, we did not have the Aquaman movie yet. Cyborg didn't have his own movie. I mean, he still doesn't. Flash didn't have his own movie. The only one that we had seen have a origin was Superman, and then it did a quick origin of like his parents getting killed and stuff in the Batman versus Superman, and then we got Wonder Woman 1, and that was pretty much it. And so I think, given that Marvel had all that build-up before Avengers, and that Zack Snyder was like, screw it, we're going to go straight to Justice League, I think that was the best way he could have done it. He needed to have that slow character background, because, I'd like to talk about, and I think you agree with me on this, one of my favorite characters, I mean, I love Superman, and, I've always been a Batman guy, although I do like Superman probably more in the DCEU, but I think the one that stole the show in the Snyder Cut was probably Cyborg.
I think Cyborg was great.
If you watch the original 2017 one, like, they cut his entire story out. There was no scenes of him playing football. It was nothing. He was a cyborg. He was literally a robot.
There's a reason I would say he was actually the main character. Honestly.
It was almost like his origin story.
It was well, you could tell that they wanted to focus solely on him as like the focal point of this.
And I think it was great. We got to see his origin. We got to see when he was a football player, because all that was cut from the 2017 one. That was his origin. Like, they cut his origin, and he was just kind of there, and all it did was show him wired up and him being made, and that was his origin in 2017. It's like, okay, I'm a DC guy, but what is this? You're not giving me any context. And then, Flash too. That whole scene with him and the puppies, and then saving Iris, who eventually becomes like his wife in the comic books. That was not in there, and I think it was necessary because it showed when he would move really fast. If you notice, when he was saving her, he like gently touched her, and you saw when he turned, like his entire shoes just ripped apart. So it kind of gave you a little bit of a feeling, like a little bit more knowledge on how powerful he is, and how he needs to move. And we see that later on when he tries to pass Wonder Woman her sword, and he just pokes it, and it goes back into her hand.
Yeah, and then we also saw how powerful he is because he's the reason that they basically shut off the portal.
Yeah.
They were about to lose. Like, it was
the thing was going to explode, and then they were going to come through the portal. But he did the Speed Force to go back in time, and that was not in 2017 either. All it was literally, I don't know if you knew this, all it was Aquaman, Superman, and Wonder Woman beating up on Steppenwolf, who like did not look intimidating at all in 2017, beating up on him, making him afraid, and making the parademons try and eat him. And that was like the extent. And then he like went up the boom tube transportation thing and got away. Like,
everything about the first version of Justice League was cheesy, from the action to the plot line to the lines. I mean, the whole ending scene of that, like, I didn't even bother watching it on TV. I watched it on YouTube just because I was curious. And you want to know what? It was so pathetic compared to what we got in the Snyder cut. It really was. It was a sad excuse for a movie.
It was.
Of that persona and that gravity, there's no way that movie was ever going to be successful. I mean, it just, like, if they would have started with the Snyder cut, would have a different DC fandom, I think, overall. I mean,
and they teased Darkseid well too. Like, I kept thinking that he was gonna have like a small cameo, like akin to Avengers, like when Thanos like turns around like in his like throne. I don't remember if that was Avengers.
It was the first Avengers and the second Avengers. Like, they showed him at the end when he's grabbing his gauntlet, which to their defense, I'm always gonna say with Marvel, like they had a lot more bandwidth in movies to tease him. They didn't have to show him that, but then we got him in Guardians of the Galaxy for a good amount of time, the first one.
Yeah.
But anyways, I agree. I really liked, because I'm not a huge DC guy, like, I honestly, guys, I don't have much comic book knowledge, and like, I didn't have much knowledge as to what the movie was going to be about. I knew Steppenwolf was going to be like the main villain, but I honestly thought that they were going to battle Darkseid like it was going to be an end-all be-all type, like, first Avengers and Endgame mix, because the thought is that the Snyderverse isn't going to ever be a thing again, so we're going to get it all.
Nope.
But I think regardless, though, I'm glad they did show Darkseid as much as they did, because for me personally, I don't think I would have liked it as much as I did if they wouldn't have.
And they showed Steppenwolf like constantly contacting Apocalypse, like the planet, like talking back to them and stuff. So like, and one more thing is, like, I see memes about people feeling sorry for Steppenwolf. I mean, number one, he looks way more badass and like an actual threat in this one. But number two, so in the 2017 one, he kept saying, for Darkseid, I want to take over the planet. Like, okay, like, I mean, we saw this with, with Loki trying to take over the planet. Like, it's an exhaustive point, like taking over the planet. It's like, how many planets are okay?
On behalf of somebody.
Yeah, on behalf of somebody else. Like, please,
come on.
just. And then we had Dormammu, and like, it's just
strange.
Yeah, and it's just like, please stop with the taking over a planet. Show me some other reason. But we have a little bit of an extended reason, because in Snyder Cut we found out that, I don't know if you caught this, but Steppenwolf betrayed Darkseid, and if you like do background research, apparently
I didn't catch that actually.
It was plotting to like overthrow him or something like that. And so as punishment, he was making Steppenwolf. That's why he said, you owe Darkseid 50,000 more planets to conquer. that was his repayment to get let back onto Apocalypse, was he had to continue conquering planets in Darkseid's name to be able to get back home.
I didn't know that.
So people actually felt bad for him because all he wanted to do was to get back home, and then he got his head cut off, and then everyone's like, haha, I guess he actually made it back home because his body and his head went through the...
I can't feel that bad for him after seeing how many times he sliced open Amazonians in that one scene.
Yeah, and then the Atlanteans.
Yeah, and the Atlanteans, and like how gory that was. That was something I did love. The fact that they included like gore.
It was rated R. It was more mature.
And they didn't really hold back on that, and some of the language I thought it made it so much more real life in that way, and so much more like if you're battling and there's no blood or anything, it's like, okay, that's not realistic. I mean, granted, it's a sci-fi altogether, but like it's gonna mean a little bit more if you're stabbing somebody and you see a bunch of blood versus not. I like that. I really love that.
Always
actually.
My pet peeve when I see a character with like a sword or something, and then like they never actually stab someone. They use it to block something, and then they hit someone with the butt end of the sword, and I'm like, please, like I don't know how many times I've seen that in like a bunch of action things.
Yeah.
That like if they have a sword or a knife, they won't actually use it to like stab or slice or anything like that. It's just like so that's what I liked, is that it was R, but it wasn't. I don't want to say
over the top.
Yeah, because like at that point it becomes less about the plot, more about the gore. But
then it's a horror film.
Then it's a horror film. But like they did enough that it was like, okay, this dude means business.
It was a good mix.
And he's cutting people down. Like,
I think, I think for me, so a couple things with each character. Cyborg was great. Cyborg was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think Flash was good. Wasn't great. Wasn't horrible. He was good. He was good for me.
He was actually one of my favorites, Flash and Cyborg.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, I didn't watch the full first version of Justice League, so I have nothing to compare it to. But I mean,
you don't want to,
right? Well, I'm never going to, honestly, ever again. I mean, I'm not even going to remember it's a thing, because this is Justice League. If I want to have any hope of coming back fully into DC, I'm going to watch Snyder Cut and pretend that's the only Justice League. But I think Flash was good for me. Aquaman was sort of there for me.
He was the weakest.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think personally my least favorite is Batman. And that is a really sad thing for me to say, because he has always been one of my favorite superheroes, even though I'm not a huge DC fan, let alone my favorite DC hero. So for me, is it the DCEU, or is it the DCU?
They say DCEU.
Okay, I don't know what's what, but
I'm like, why are you calling it?
I'm just going to call it
universe?
the DC Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm not going to use acronyms. Yeah. But the DC Universe, Cinematic Universe, I hate this Batman.
You hate Ben Affleck? Do you hate...
Not that I hate Ben Affleck as Batman. I love the suit. I hate what they're doing with him. Even in the Snyder Cut, he was only present in like a few action scenes. I just didn't feel like he was there. And like, he didn't have any significant fight scenes. He's just there. He was like that in Batman vs. Superman against Doomsday. He was like that now in the Snyder Cut and in the first cut of Justice League. He's just there for me.
I agree with that criticism. Now, that being said, him personally as Batman, I love him as Batman. He looks like Bruce Wayne in the comic book. I like him as Batman. Now, for the plot points you mentioned, I 100% agree with you, because Batman is depicted. So one of the big differences, at least between the mainstream characters of Marvel and between Marvel and DC, is DC's. I would make the assertion that they are typically more godlike.
Yeah.
Versus Marvel's are supposed to be human and more relatable. So that's their difference. Because, in DC, you have Green Lantern, human, but like has
You're talking more
power.
Greek mythology with DC.
Yeah, so Batman being the only real non-mutated, like, super godlike being, right? He's always credited, and if you look at the animated films and stuff like that, like Justice League Doom and other stuff, he always has, like, contingency plans, and he had contingency plans to take down the other members of the Justice League. So my point is he's supposed to be despite his disadvantages, he's supposed to be the one that can pack the most punch. And that's not what we're seeing here. I mean, he had the idea to bring back Superman, but okay, that's great, but we're not actually seeing any of that mythology where he is capable of taking down any of the other members of the Justice League and any villain.
Exactly.
Now, supposedly, his time to shine was supposed to be Justice League 2 when he was one of the survivors, like in the nightmare scene, and that was supposed to be his core character development. Whether or not we see that, that'll be another story. All I know is he was supposed to die in Justice League 3, and he was supposed to be the sole character that was supposed to die, like in the end. But
yeah, and I think, I really hope if the Snyderverse comes back, or if they ever use Ben Affleck's Batman in any way, that they do him more justice. That's all. I mean,
more justice. He had the Vision pun. He had the Justice pun.
It's injustice.
Yeah. Well, that's another DC thing. Injustice.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. But I'll tell you though, who was fantastic. Superman. Superman was just fantastic. I got the chills watching the Superman scenes from the time he was resurrected. And my favorite scene, I actually think, wasn't even the finale when they were fighting Steppenwolf. It was when they were resurrecting him. They were grabbing his casket. Just the amount of time they took to build that scene up really, really resonated with me. Not only from just like a gravity standpoint and like sort of a climax in a way of the movie, but just the emotions of it. And you could tell throughout the movie how badly they needed him in order to accomplish this. And when they brought him back, it was like, it reminded me, and I turned to you and said this, it was very symbolic of Jesus. And
he did that in Man of Steel too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Some of the scenery, like it was 100% intentional. And I like too that like,
when he reunited with Lois.
I love that. And I was going to mention when they go to the field and he makes a comment and says, I take that as a yes, because she was wearing the ring that had come in the mail that his Earth mother had given to Lois after he died in Batman versus Superman. So he said, I take that as a yes. And, you know, they went off and they had their moment. But Joss had reshot those scenes. I mean, yeah, Superman had the CGI lip, but purposely removed the ring. She did not wear the ring in Justice League. There's no mention of the ring or anything like that in the 2017 one. And for me, I'm like, that just strips away a lot of that emotional attachment those two characters had. And now the fact that he came back and all this time she was wearing the ring, you know, and there's that, you know, reuniting, like, it was just good.
Everything about it, yeah. No, everything about it was fantastic. I completely get what you're saying. Like, she really saw him as her person, and he wasn't there, but that didn't matter. Like, everything about it, between the emotions of all the characters, from the other heroes, the Justice League, to Lois Lane, to Superman's mom, to Jor-El, right? Like, I mean, all of them.
Oh, the voiceover.
Right, the voiceover.
And then Jonathan Kent, like his
yeah, and yeah, exactly. Jonathan Kent, like, all of it was just, it was fantastic. And that to me made the movie for me. That made the movie for me was Superman. And then when he finally remembers everything and he goes to choose his suit when you get the black suit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
he goes so amazing.
He goes, looks through all of them, and I don't know if you knew this, but the other suits that we're seeing, yeah, one was from Man of Steel, it was the Warrior one, but some of the other ones were ones that he had in different comic books that were in the
back. I didn't know that, but I had a feeling it was some kind of Easter egg or like some sort of thing like that for fans.
And then you just see him like looking, and it doesn't show what he's looking at, and everyone's like, it's the black suit. He's looking at the black suit. And then he comes out, and like, honestly, I love the classic red and blue look, but like he looked badass in like the black and the white.
That's why I'm saying, like, even if I get no other collectibles from DC, it has to be the black suited Superman. I mean, it was so amazing. It really was. Wonder Woman was really good too. She was probably my third on the list. So I would give Superman made the movie for me. Cyborg was a great supporting character. Wonder Woman was up there, you know, and then the others just were kind of there for me. But those three for me made Justice League. Mm-hmm. And then Steppenwolf was a really good villain. I think they really Snyder did a great job of giving him the sort of gravitas that he needed to be a Justice League villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked him better than Loki in the first Avengers. I did. I liked Steppenwolf. I will say that as a Marvel fan, I liked Steppenwolf better than I did.
He
with Loki.
seemed more menacing. Like
yeah, he did.
It was more like Loki doesn't give me the vibe that he'd murder you in cold blood, but like Steppenwolf, like clearly.
Well, and to be fair, I mean Loki was cut a deal, and he was more.
The motive was different.
Yeah, he was more forced to impress you by Thanos versus Steppenwolf. Yeah, he had to earn that right, but there was a part of him that enjoyed that. You know, like you could tell he was a more menacing villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I really did love. I loved the last two parts of the movie.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something. I was skeptical of the Snyder Cut. I was glad it was it was happening.
So was I.
I said I was glad it was happening because I wanted to continue seeing DC Universe movies being made with those casts, because I think their casting is good. If you see the individual Aquaman movie, Jason Momoa kills it. Like, I think the casting is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just please work. I don't understand how they can write scripts for the animated movies that get A's on Rotten Tomatoes, and then like, where are those people that you have write those animated ones? Why are they not writing the
actually 3 knocks now that you bring this up? That we're just like we're picking some things out. So three things. Number one, could the advertising not have been more obvious in this Snyder Cut?
Oh, Under Armour. What else was there?
U-Haul, Mercedes. It was Mercedes.
Mercedes,
right?
Yeah.
There was something else I feel like too.
They wanted in on it. I mean, hey, can't knock them.
That was that. Number 2, Martian Manhunter. I mean, out of everything that's gone on, where the hell has he been? You know, like what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
We need to know. Great that he showed up. I know for a lot of diehard DC fans like you, it was great to see him, but like, where the hell have you been?
Because he's supposed to be next to Superman, one of the most OP people.
Right,
like,
exactly.
It's like, what were you doing? Now, I did read someone's explanation that, again, fans make up explanations, you know, Mephisto, right? So it may not be true. Maybe we'll never find out if they don't continue. But he was masquerading as the Army general.
Yeah, he was.
So, and if you notice in Man of Steel, supposedly this was his plan all along, because he made a comment when Superman's sitting there in Man of Steel cuffed, right, with Lois, and then Superman gets up from the table and just easily breaks the cuffs apart and walks up to the glass that they're looking through. If you notice, all of the military people in that room take a step back, but the general, he takes a step forward, like he's not afraid of him. So apparently he had asked Snyder when filming that, should I step back with him? And he said, no, actually for your character, you should take a step forward. He didn't know he was going to be Martian Manhunter, but it kind of makes sense. But someone's explanation was, we don't know how long he was on Earth. We don't. We know he knew of Bruce's parents because of the end, but let's just assume he came to Earth right before Man of Steel, right? Or something to that extent.
Yeah.
People were saying an explanation would be because if you remember Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, everyone hated Superman. They wanted him gone. They said he's a threat, and they want nothing to do with him.
Right.
So an explanation that people had was maybe he cautiously came to Earth, because the story is he's the last, or one of the last surviving green Martians from Mars after the white Martians killed all of his race, and he came to Earth. So he would blend in and be cautious. Now, part of the explanation that people gave was that, you know, he already came to Earth and was playing it safe, but then when he saw how people treated Superman, that's why he didn't reveal himself until more of the other, I guess, supers, if you will, revealed themselves in Justice League, and that's why he shows up.
And that's a good point, but Doomsday was like at the time the end all be all, so why the hell would you show up at that point? Mm-hmm. So for me, that just still doesn't match up in that theory.
He did I think he was the one that launched the nuke, though, on Doomsday, or launched the missile.
Yeah, but we all know that
wouldn't have done anything. Yeah. So I do see some explanation there.
I think it's more wishful thinking, though.
I see some explanation there. Like, if they said it, I'd be like, okay. But I mean, you know, I think it can be likened to any superhero movie, really, right? So, like,
there's a few.
You know, Iron Man and like There's individual superhero movies that like some really bad stuff happens, and it's like, okay, come on, you're not telling me you.
Yeah, Captain Marvel was kind of like that for me.
Yeah, it's like you have this massive threat.
If you knew Thanos was getting the Infinity Stones, why the hell were you doing other things?
Yeah,
you know, like exactly. I mean,
there were a lot of other universes. Okay, well, this one wants to kill all of them. So
yeah,
like...
I mean, that's like about as bad of a threat as you could get. So maybe in time we'll learn, like, if there was something more she was focused on. But I have a hard time believing that at the time that something was worse than Thanos getting almost all the Infinity Stones.
Mm-hmm. What I do like is, remember, he was disguised as Martha Kent and went in to motivate Lois to go back into being. So
he's always kind of worked as like a motivating feature.
Yeah, and you know, he did work in the military. It wasn't like he was like, nothing against Fat Thor. Fat Thor was comical, but it wasn't like he was sitting back. You know, so I want to know more. Hopefully, we get it. He was growing up. He was one of my favorite characters.
He's cool looking.
He's cool, and he has a unique origin story. He's literally from another planet, and like, I mean, so is Superman. But there was a lot of like, if you watch the animated one, like version of him, there's a lot of stuff that goes on Mars, and it's like a very different world. It's kind of like the same vibe that you get when you're watching Krypton and Man of Steel. It's like, wow, I want to know more about this world. So one more note, or actually two more notes.
Who's AB?
I am not sure. AB, I'm not sure who you are. Where are you in your discussion? We discussed WandaVision. We're finishing up Snyder Cut, and then he's going to discuss Winter Soldier.
Got a lot to cover, guys.
Yeah, exactly. We've been going for a while. But so at the end, so we see Martian Manhunter twice. Once when he's in Lois's apartment.
Yep.
And then once at the end visiting Bruce Wayne.
Which they gave him a good amount of time at the end.
They did.
It wasn't just a quick conversation.
And that dialogue was like really good. Your parents would be proud, and like that was like
it was good. Yeah, I mean it was good.
Yeah, no, so I like that, but apparently, again supposedly, that was not supposed to be the cameo that was at the end. It was supposed to be the Green Lanterns that showed up at the end. It was supposedly supposed to be Kilowog and what's his name, Tomar or whatever, the ones that were around Ryan Reynolds in Green Lantern.
I never saw Green Lantern.
Okay, well, basically, there was supposed to be some alien ones, supposedly, and then the Green Lantern that he had cast, because I don't know if you knew this, since you're not a DC guy, but there's multiple human Green Lanterns. There's Hal Jordan, there's John Stewart, the Guy Gardner, there's a bunch. My personal favorite was John Stewart. I think his story was that he was like, I'm trying to remember now, I think he was in the military or something. So he had cast someone as John Stewart to come in at the end, but Warner Brothers had him cut that had him cut it out. But yeah, so we were going to get a Green Lantern.
Is he usually part of the Justice League?
Green Lantern, yes. Yeah, so usually the originals, it's debatable between, usually it always starts with 6, and usually the one that gets swapped out is Cyborg for Martian Manhunter or Green Lantern. Usually it's like it depends which comic book you read, but the others eventually join. One last note that I'll bring up about the Snyder Cut is at the end we see Batman standing on his like tank Batmobile thing.
Right.
That is directly out of one of the most famous Batman comic books and animated movies, The Dark Knight Returns. That was the vehicle he had. And then if you look at the front of the vehicle in the smoke, he has the mutant gang tied up, who were the main antagonists of the Dark Knight Returns comic book series and the anime movie. So they were tied up in the front. And in that comic book line, basically what happens is Gotham City was out of control. He beats down the mutant leader and convinces that gang of mutants to follow him and teaches them the ways of Batman, and they become his enforcers. Wow. So they had that little bit at the end.
Oh, we got a third person joining this late.
We do. So they had that bit at the end, and that was awesome. Basically, was it a perfect film? No, but you can't end on Desaad telling Darkseid, what are we going to do? And Darkseid says, we'll go to the old ways, prepare the Armada, and then walks away. And it's like, come on, you can't just tell me like you're ending it there.
Yeah. Well, and so I give you 2 of my nitpicks. My third is Amber Heard's British accent, that she did not have in Aquaman. Really? Outside of that 3, though, like, well, it was overall well done. I mean, it was much better, much more like openly received by the fan base, understandably so.
And there was you could tell that movie was made with a lot of passion.
Oh yeah, well you knew with the stakes that
and his daughter
and everything. I mean, it was a beautiful thing, beautiful tribute at the end. I love that. And being a dad to a little girl, it's like I really was like very, very touched by that.
Yeah. So addressing the accent thing, I figured out why. Supposedly, this is an explanation that was given, but I'll start with the opinion and then go to the fact. Someone said, "Oh, British." He put it there to associate it with like royalty because she's supposed to be royalty. I don't know if that's the reason, but those scenes were all filmed. All those scenes except for like one of the scenes at the end were already filmed. They were not refilmed. They were filmed back in 2017 or prior to that for the 2017 release. So he had filmed her with a British accent. Joss Whedon, when they went and refilmed it, had the American accent in there, but the dialogue was very different. So what happened was the Joss version got released, and then Aquaman got made. So because it came after the terrible Justice League, they had to keep the accent continuous, which is why that there's that.
That's part of what he wanted to do to make it unique to his cut.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I mean, like, well, I think had the Snyderverse one come out earlier, then she would have had that accent in Aquaman.
So what happens if he comes back then? Is she going to go back to having a British accent?
I don't know.
Well, no, she's not even going to be coming back, actually, with all the legal battles she's in right now.
Supposedly she's still on board.
That's ridiculous.
We'll see.
Johnny Depp gets cut, she needs to get cut too.
Well,
there was no guilty parties in that falling out.
Or
no innocent parties, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Both guilty, no innocent.
But point is like, if she does come back, I think a lot of people will overlook the accent and just be grateful that the DCU is like continuing.
Yeah, basically restored to glory is what it is.
Because Aquaman 2 is filming, and then they confirmed Wonder Woman 3. I'm like, if you're using the same actors and actresses, and then we have the Flash movie, it's like, how are you gonna like suddenly pretend Justice League didn't happen? Because like, clearly there's something about to invade Earth, so they can't just go off on an adventure, like, and then
What's your final rating
of Snyder Cut? First time I would have said 8 out of 10. Second time I would say 9 out of 10, because when I watched it again in the morning, when I wasn't as tired, I caught more things that were in there. I'm just happy we got it, and it was decent.
Yeah, I think I have to go back and watch before I can give my final rating, but as it stands, I'm at an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. And
which that's around where I rated the first Avengers. Mm-hmm. Where did I rate Age of Ultron for the Avengers? I gave it like a 6.5.
Oh, thank God! I hated that one.
Yeah,
it
was just there for me. Although I do love Ultron's look. I will say, if there's any positives, I actually, guys, just bought the hot toy for Ultron because it's so badass looking.
I like Ultron. I like him as a character. I like his dialogue, but other than that,
he's the equivalent to what they did to Steppenwolf in the first release of Justice League. I mean, that's
basically just Age of Ultron. Like, I'm more of a DC person. I still watch a lot of Marvel movies. I mean, pretty much. But like, if there's one movie that like I could just like get rid of in Marvel, it's 100% that one.
Totally.
We get nothing out of it other than Wanda exists and Pietro existed and died. That's the only thing that we get out of it.
That's it. Well, Vision in the Mind Stone.
And then they say Sokovia Accords. But literally, we summed it up in 30 seconds of all you need to know.
Yeah, well, and that was the real beginning of Thor sort of going on this journey to figure out what's going on with the universe. And there's hints to Thanos or somebody going after the Infinity Stone. Mm-hmm. So that was the first real introduction we have to all the stones and the fact that somebody might be after them all. But yeah, I mean, that's it. And those are only like small snippets of the movie. That's not like the bigger plot point of it all.
Yeah, and it was definitely the weakest in my opinion.
Completely wasted a good villain. And James Spader was the perfect voice for him. Completely wasted him.
And as an Office fan,
completely wasted him, because he always has like these awesome one-liners. He's like Josh Brolin. Like, he has these really like deep.
He has that charisma.
Yeah, he's got charisma. He's got very like every one-liner that he has is very deep, and it means a lot. Like, there's a lot to unpack in every statement he makes. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of gravitas that comes with it, but not
that
was just pathetic the way that they did that. And I'm the Marvel guy here.
Release an Age of Ultron director's cut. Let me tell you.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's like when that was one of the first few movies that Disney had full creative control over the director. So it'd be interesting to see how. I think though Age of Ultron, if I'm not mistaken, is still pretty accurate to the Joss Whedon cut as well. Which just further proves that he just doesn't know how to
Joss vibes, yeah.
But then you go back to the first Avengers, and I watched it not too long ago, and I was like, damn, like this is really good actually.
It's pretty good.
And Joss Whedon was the director for that, so I don't know what happened. I don't know if maybe he was popping pills or something, or his creative vision was just lacking afterward. Like he did a great job in the first Avengers.
People were saying, oh, it's because he's a Marvel guy, he sabotaged. I don't know if that was the case. Maybe he just didn't care. I'm more inclined to believe that. So Warner Brothers likes to step in and control things. I'm more inclined. Yes, I'm more inclined to believe that Warner Brothers stepping in didn't help, and I'm also more inclined to believe that Disney, yes, they step in, but I think Kevin had a large part in orchestrating that movie, versus Justice League was Joss pretty much on his own, being led by Warner Brothers, who didn't know what they were doing in the first place anyway. So I think
pretty much
that combination was just...
Well, Joss Whedon's Justice League is literally in the same ranking as, what's his name, Star Wars.
Rian Johnson.
Yeah, Rian Johnson's Star Wars. They're in the same boat.
Yeah.
They can both go right into the sunset together because nobody, the fans respectively hate them now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm there with them. I hated both of those movies.
So one more final closing point that I like to bring up comparing DC and Marvel is that the mother boxes in DC were like very reminiscent of Infinity Stones. Only you just had to get them all to terraform the Earth, and so like it was more like it wasn't like one individually did something. And I was interested because I went back and watched an anime movie, looked up some comic books. I don't read comic books, but I know of the lore, and like those mother boxes have been around forever, and like the Infinity Stones have been around forever. So like it's really interesting that like this happened to both be.
There were a lot of parallels between that, and then there were a couple others we pointed out.
And it's weird because when you consider this, Batman versus Superman and Civil War, very similar-ish concept, a very different tone and plot, but very similar-ish underlying concept developed at the same time. If you take Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was developed years ago, that and the concept of Infinity War and Endgame happened to be developed at the similar time, but which was going around collecting these powerful items. It's just very weird that it's like out of all the storylines, like that they do very similar things at the same time.
Even the heroes too.
Yeah, it's just I don't know if there's a mole in each of the companies, but
do you remember? Well, think about it. Ben Affleck's Batman goes, I had a premonition, right? Mm-hmm. He said something like that, or a dream. And then Tony Stark in Age of Ultron, I had a vision, and he had a vision of the Avengers dying and this greater threat taking over the world or the universe. Same with Batman.
And then Cyborg says, "Let's go get the son of a bitch." And then
that's what Cap said. I didn't catch that.
And then Captain America says, "Let's go find this." And it, like in this case, that was the opposite. The even though it got released now, Cyborg's was filmed first, and then Captain America's was filmed later. And it's kind of like there's a lot of eerie similarities, and I'm like, is there a mole or something going on there? Because they're made at the same time.
Darkseid and Thanos, like, look at them.
That's the creator of Thanos, like in comic books, said he based it on Darkseid. He said that. So like,
now who would win in that fight? That has always been. See, I don't know. I really don't know, because honestly, they made Darkseid at that like flashback scene look like a wuss.
I mean,
the axe. Do you remember the axe? Like how Thor throws the axe into Thanos' chest,
and I was like, you should have gone for the head.
Yeah,
and Wonder Woman does, but yeah, I mean, he was young there. I want to see, because we saw Prime Thanos, and I want to see Prime Darkseid. I mean, he has the Omega beams, which like can teleport. He can either vaporize you or teleport you to another dimension where it has like these demons and like other flying creatures, but that will eat you. But I'm just hoping we see more, because like we see his character and it's such a tease. But we'll see.
We know it'd be a pretty epic battle.
Yeah. it would be like, it's not ever gonna happen, but I would like die to see like a crossover movie of like Avengers and like the
People have been calling for that ever since they started making the team up movies. Like we're like 10 years into this wanting to
that could legitimately like break all the other records if it like happened to be a
God. I mean, well, and it would be unique because it would bring the fandoms together for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's, we know there's like a natural rivalry there. So but with that being said, I think we've covered everything with Snyder Cut. Last, and this will be quick, is Winter Soldier. Couple thoughts. So we got the first episode last week. We're getting the next one releasing in the morning, tomorrow morning.
I get to watch both tomorrow morning.
That's perfect. And you're gonna want to, because I wasn't a huge fan of the first episode. And we were talking about this before we started streaming. I was not a huge fan of the first episode. I wasn't expecting much anyway because they got to kind of set it up. And so I think the consensus was pretty, like, overall it was pretty much the same as me. It was just like, I got bored of it, honestly. Like the first couple scenes were good, but I got bored. But then again, you have to watch it in order to be able to watch the rest of the series. So as this goes on and we get Zemo and we get everybody else in here, I think it'll really pick up. Product releases, I just saw before I came over here some first pictures of, really they haven't made an announcement, but it's like leaked photos of the new Marvel Legends line of Falcon and Winter Soldier. And it's gonna be, you ready for this? Sorry, spoiler warning. Turn your volume down if you don't want to hear this. Christian, if you're okay hearing this.
I'm okay hearing it.
Okay. So part of the leak was a Build-A-Figure in that line.
Oh my God, I hate those
So you
things.
have Baron Zemo, as you know, with his purple mask, more like the comic book. You have one of him, a figure of him. You have a figure of the new look Bucky, Winter Soldier. You have who was the other one? There was a third one I'm trying to think of in that line. Those were like the two main ones, though.
Who's the Build-A-Figure?
The Build-A-Figure was U.S. Agent was the third figure.
Oh, is that the one that I keep seeing like the memes? It's like the wheels on a shopping cart, and it's like three Captain Americas, and then that guy.
Yep, that's exactly who it was. So those were the three. There's probably going to be another one we haven't seen yet. The Build-A-Figure. Ready for this? It was Sam's new uniform.
Okay.
Why is that significant? Because it's a Captain America
uniform.
Right. Yeah. It's the same as we get, which, let's be real, it's not like that big of a shocker because we kind of know that's going to end up being the case, but it just goes to prove that yes, he will officially at the end of this series take up the new shield, the new look symbol of Captain America, which is going to be exciting. I like it. I don't mind it. I mean, here's why I really actually am liking that is because, number one, that's how it is in the comics, and number two, because I like Sam, and I like the fact that he's been a part of Captain America's journey since Steve Rogers was Captain America in the Winter Soldier. So we've gotten a lot of movies now to really understand his character and create a lot of that emotional connection. So it only makes sense that either him or Bucky would become the new Captain America.
See, I could have made an argument for either one because I was all for, I'll get to why it wouldn't work, but I was all for Bucky being the one that takes up the mantle because that also happens in the comic.
It does, yeah.
I mean, yes, he has a robot arm, but he was Steve's friend for the longest time, like more than Sam. I mean, Sam was his friend too, but more than Sam. That was like his childhood friend, and he's also a super soldier. So he, profile-wise, is most like Captain America.
Whereas Sam's just going on the tech he has with his Falcon suit. Like he's an ordinary guy.
Batman vibe, right? They're
totally a Batman approach. Yeah, exactly.
But the reason it wouldn't have worked is because a lot of the people last public opinion of Bucky was not high, so that would not have been appropriate for him to just show up as Captain America. It wouldn't have been accepted. Versus Sam, there's not like controversy surrounding him, so it makes more sense from a storyline. It just bothers me that is he really, his personality says Captain America, but how, and so that's why he can get away with it. But like when I think Captain America, I think of Super Soldier. When I think of Techie, I think of Batman, Iron Man. Like, and
I agree.
But his character is very resemblant of Captain America.
Here's why I'm excited though to see Sam take up the shield as Captain America, because Sam has been the most loyal to Captain America, to Steve Rogers, because we know obviously part of Bucky's story arc has been the fact that he thought he was dead for all these years, but really he was brainwashed by Hydra and they end up fighting, and that's why the Avengers get torn up in the first place, right?
And Civil War happens.
So it, for me, not that it wouldn't make sense at all, it would, but like I think it's more significant, and you can just see, just based on Sam's character, he's a loyal, trustworthy person that has always got your back, and he stands for something bigger. And that is who Captain America is at the heart and the core. And Bucky really doesn't you don't have that same emotional connection in that way.
He's very silent.
He is. He's silent, he's more mischievous. You don't know fully if you can trust him still. That's the thing. We don't know if we can still fully trust him. And now, like in this new episode, now with Zemo, in this new episode, we see him having dreams. He's having nightmares of, and I know you haven't seen it yet, but he has nightmares of him as the Winter Soldier. So it's just, it wouldn't be as significant versus having Sam do it. So to me, I'm excited to see Sam. And plus, let's be honest, in today's day and age, it might be a kind of a political statement, you know.
Possibly.
I think that might be the other thing, but regardless.
So I got one question for you. Is there a scene in there, because I've been seeing this meme, and I don't know if it's from like recycled footage from like a while ago that some Bucky was in, but Bucky, is he missing his arm at one portion of the thing? And like, is his arm like laying on a table or something, like in one portion of the thing?
Well, so I've only watched it once. I can't really remember.
Okay.
I know that so the arm is laying on something in Infinity War when T'Challa comes to him and says, T'Challa comes to him and is like, you know.
So I seen this meme, and it's like the arm is like laying on something disconnected from him, and it was like they made it look like Buzz Lightyear's arm, and then they made Bucky like his outfit look like Buzz Lightyear, and they gave him like the Mrs. Nesbit hat from like Toy Story, when he's like, I am Mrs. Nesbit, and then remember like Woody ripped off his arm and was like going like this. So like I saw that meme circulating like a lot, and I was like, is there like some scene with him missing his arm, but it might be recycled footage?
I think it's recycled from Infinity War when T'Challa brings him in the arm and says, like, he goes, where's the fight? And he says, on its way. That might be it, because I think I've seen a meme like that too. It's not that one, but it's a different one. But I mean, as far as first thoughts go, there's really not much to think about. There is actually one thing that I saw. So there's a Hispanic guy that basically works with Sam now in the U.S. forces, right? Like the Air Force, because Sam's part of the Air Force unit. And they revealed his name, and his name is the same one that in one of the comic lines, that man actually becomes a Falcon. I forgot who it is, but supposedly, but now I think this is what's going to happen, is he's now going to be the new Falcon, and then Sam as Falcon will then become Captain America.
I'm going to make a joke. I'm going to be like, Bucky gonna watch all this happen and be like, where's my promotion? Like,
for real,
he's gonna see everyone else like getting a new.
Well, do you think Bucky's gonna die?
No, I don't think so. They're not gonna kill him in this. They might kill him in a movie. I don't think they're gonna kill him in this. I
think it'd be too soon.
I don't think so, because not that the show's going to be meaningless, but for the purpose of the people that don't have Disney Plus, the casual moviegoer that will go see it because their friends are going to go see it, they're going to likely end the series with, by the end of the series, Falcon will have the mantle of Captain America. We see at the end of Endgame, Captain America gives the shield to Falcon, and so really, if you don't watch the show, and that's the end result of the show, most people that have seen Endgame or know the ending of Endgame will be perfectly fine continuity-wise with Sam's next appearance of him being in a Captain America uniform, because they're going to be like, oh yeah, Captain America gave him the shield, he's Captain America now. But this might be about the journey towards fulfilling that role, which is why, yes, it'll provide some support for future movies, but I don't think they're going to do anything super drastic in here that is going like killing off a main character and then have to re-explain it in the movies. That's why I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll explain character development that will give you a better understanding of the character, but not necessarily be 100% required to go watch a movie, such as the Captain America example.
Last remark for the night, I've been seeing in the news a lot with Marvel that Loki, which is the least talked about series, which is slated to come out in July, will be the craziest, most whacked out series we've gotten yet. Like most entertaining, most thrilling. We are going to see, I think, more in the Loki series about the future of the MCU than we have yet. And we've already gotten in WandaVision a decent glimpse into the future. Mm-hmm. Supposedly Loki will be ×2. So that one will be another one to look forward to.
And I'm assuming this is following the Loki that got away with the Tesseract.
Yeah, yep. Okay. Yeah, exactly. He's the Loki from the first Avengers timeline, so he's still bad and corrupted. From the first Avengers. So like in Endgame.
The one when they went back. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've thought about this because the Ancient One, she explains it as, I think it was her, that explains that, if you put the stones back in at the exact time you got them, then I believe the explanation was that the timelines, the continuity, like, becomes continuous again, no longer branches off. So if Captain America went back and put them back in at the times that they were supposed to, part of me is like, does that still exist? Like, I'm going to need a little bit of an explanation because that might conflict a little with the Endgame explanation.
It might get a little confusing at times, but I know they have a plan to connect it all and make it make sense at the end of the day.
Well, because their explanation of time travel is you go back and change something, it doesn't change the future, it branches off. Which, I mean, it kind of makes sense because if if we went back in time, right, and changed something, like, then if it didn't split off another continuity, technically the future would have been different. We would have never went back in time to change it anyway. So it becomes a paradoxical loop. So it makes sense. But then, people say, I remember a big criticism of Endgame was Captain America goes back in time, but still shows up old in the main timeline. So how does he go back in time and him not branch off in another timeline?
Plus, he's not supposed to age with the serum.
I think he's supposed to age, but much slower. That was less my concern. For me, the only explanation I can think of without breaking the Endgame logic is that maybe he was always supposed to go back in time. If you're always supposed to do something, then it's not breaking continuity. So maybe he was always supposed to go back in time, and that's why he was able to show up there. That's my spiel.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, Endgame opened up a whole new can of worms with where they can go with storylines and like story arcs and all that.
My final thought: I think they're going to play it conservatively. I think we will get multiverse, but it will not be nearly as, I don't want to say big because it'll be, it's a big thing. It's a new area, but I don't want people to expect the next 5 Marvel movies to all be multiverse focused.
No, I don't think that's going to be the case.
I think we'll have Spider-Man, we will have Doctor Strange, and maybe one more, but that's going to be the extent of multiverse.
Well, my question is going to be though how you bring mutants in.
I think it's going to be a reboot. I think it's going to be a complete reboot.
But you got to think of a clever way to introduce them in the MCU because now you've had everything with Endgame. Plus, then by the time they actually come out, we're going to already have more to Phase 4 and even 5 before we actually start to get the X-Men. So there's going to have to be something that happens.
I can tell you exactly. I don't want to say exactly, and then I end up being right, and then I spoiled it. But I think you brought it up too before. We already see some disdain for Wanda at the end of WandaVision.
Yeah. That's my biggest theory, guys.
She's still going to be good in the end, but we see disdain for that, and then we see her doing some, dark stuff at the witchcraft. It's you don't want to be doing that. At the end, right? It's she's going to be seen. If she's not going to be an enemy in Doctor Strange or whatever, if for part of Doctor Strange or the next movie she's in, she will definitely be dark, maybe somewhat mischievous. I think eventually she'll be good again. I don't know how quick that transition is going to happen, but my point is there's going to be plenty of time for people to develop their disdain for mutants, and that's going to be when they bring mutants in.
But how are they going to do that if they don't use the multiverse concept?
I think they're just going to do a reboot. I think they're going to do a reboot. If they do bring over ones from the Fox, because technically we have Deadpool, who they're continuing with, who was in the Fox universe. So with Deadpool 3, I think it's possible to bring the mutants over, but I wouldn't, I said this before, I would not expect Hugh Jackman to come over as Wolverine.
No, I don't think it's going to happen at the end of the day.
It's going to be that girl who I know you don't like, but
X-23, God, don't get me started. Anyways, that's one thing. That's how you're going to see the humans, guys. That's the start, okay? That's my prediction. At the WandaVision, the end of WandaVision, when you see the humans looking at her walk away, that is the start of hating mutants. Because, see, they also were very intentional about Wanda saying, I don't know about this power, I don't know who I am, but I'll find out. That's another one. Third one, you ready? One very big, and it's almost confirmed at this point, thing that we're going with is since the Sokovia Accords, the government is testing a way to be able to create multiple heroes that they can control. So in other words, they're under the control of the government. I could see a scenario.
Transformers.
I could see a scenario where the government starts getting a little bit too excited with some of their experimenting, and that's how we start to get mutants.
So typical government doing things that they shouldn't be doing and backfiring. So bottom line, what he's getting at, if you're not familiar with the Foxhole mutants and not liking mutants, go watch Transformers 4, see what the government did, and see the result of that, and you will have a complete understanding.
Yep. Because we're supposed to get, so at the end of Black Widow, apparently, and this is, again, pretty much confirmed, guys. So again, spoiler warning, turn down your sound if you don't want to hear this. Like, I'm almost positive this is going to be the case. General Ross will be Red Hulk.
I believe
and
that.
He's going to create the Thunderbolts, which is like another little sub-team of heroes that are controlled by the government. So who's going to be a part of that? So it's going to be General Ross, Red Hulk. Supposedly it will be U.S. Agent, which this is where we're going to get the tie-in with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then a couple others too. But I'm just going to throw that out there. That
sounds right.
Yeah, and it's going to be the mutants in the MCU. If it's not by multiverse, it's going to be because the government experiments on people, and they basically are people that are outcast because they were bad experiments. That's how it's going to happen. And then the whole hatred portion will be from Wanda.
And I'm just going to say one last thing. With them going back and showing Wanda's childhood, I would not be surprised if they pull a bait and switch, pull an Obi-Wan Kenobi or a Rey Skywalker where Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father. How it was technically true, but it was also a lie. I could totally see the parents getting killed ended up being like not the real biological parents of Wanda. I could see it being that, because technically they're adoptive parents, but not their biological parents. And then you find out it's related to Magneto and like all this other. I could totally see them retconning that, because I said it after Last Jedi came out. I said, I do not believe that Rey is not related to anybody. When he was like, "Oh, your parents are nobody," I said, "What's going to happen?"
That crossed my mind too.
I was like, "What's going to happen is the parents are nobody." I said this to Brianna. I said the parents are nobody, but they didn't say anything about the grandparents. And I was right. Palpatine.
You want to know, guys? This just made me think too, and I love that point. I thought about it, but I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking about it. The other supporting example that I have to the whole mutants in the MCU theory about mutants in the MCU basically being experiments that went wrong from the government. Right? Ready for this? How did Wanda get her powers? She got them with multiple interactions with the Mind Stone. How did she have those interactions at first? Because the government was testing on her. The Sokovian government was testing on her. And because she interacted with the Mind Stone the way she did, And she blew it up at the end of Infinity War. Like, by the way, I also called that. That's something I have to pat myself on the back. I called that from the start, that she got her powers to the next level because she blew the Mind Stone up. But regardless, all of these interactions that the government basically made her have at first is how she began to get her true powers. Mutants, guys. That's how it's going to happen.
Well, I'd like to point out the importance possibly of lineage, because you bring up the powers and stuff. They, in a way, retconned her history from Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron, I don't know if it was, or maybe it was, I forget what movie it was, maybe it was Winter Soldier, when they show like Quicksilver like this, like bouncing around in his like cell or whatever. I remember the dialogue and stuff. It implied that they were like doing like, I don't know if it was like chemical testing. Basically, you knew they were doing experiments on them, but it looked like they were the two main subjects. And so it was like, oh, the government, you know, you always hear
This Covian government.
Well, yeah, you hear like, oh, you know, the joke is you get bitten by a radioactive spider, you fall into radioactive waste or something like that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, they're doing like some chemical stuff.
And the U.S. government won't be the only one testing, by the way, either.
So what we see here is she touched it, and while all the other subjects died, she didn't, which to me points that there was something mutant, or she had some power
supernatural
before that, before any government testing. It just so happened that that's why she survived. And so that to me implies that her biological parents had some sort of ability, which is why I don't necessarily believe that it was just from the government. I think there was something there beforehand.
I agree. It's a great point. So there you have it, guys. We've come full circle. We started with products, went into WandaVision, went into Justice League, went into Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then full circle back to Wanda, and then we'll leave you with that.
And we kind of even like compared some DC and Marvel trends.
Yeah, but you know,
deep dive.
Again, here we are, no Star Wars. We built this channel on Star Wars, but needless to say, there is plenty of discussion to be had about any of these topics, and there will be many more topics for Star Wars in the future. So for anybody that watches this and turns it right off because they're not huge superhero fans, I hear you. But we will be back with more Star Wars news. We just don't have much lately.
Yeah, it's kind of a dead period. I mean, at least today, you know, we've been kind of, you know, between the wedding and other stuff, we've been really busy. At least today, we get you a good hour and a half of content.
We've made up for the time.
Still, barely any time compared to the length of the Snyder Cut, but we did almost get you a full animated feature length of equivalent of discussion.
We did. Well, for you guys that are watching it late, I'm sorry you couldn't join us, but rest assured, we're back. We're back to our full schedule. This man now that he's got his house, he's married, we'll you know, be able to start being more consistent again with our Thursday nights. And I actually just went to Best Buy yesterday to look at some equipment. So in the next couple of weeks, I might be getting some extra equipment to make this live stream a little bit better. So we're going to take just the graphics and everything to the next level so that it can be more enjoyable for you guys. But that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you, guys. We will talk next week.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram if you don't already.
Yep, we still need those followers and subscribers.